In this tutorial, we'll explain how to use the quick engrave functionality available in VCarve Pro and Aspire. We're going to use this very simple plaque design to show how we could select the text and scribe or mark the surface using a diamond, or we could engrave the text and then go on to select the circles and show how to trepan or to pocket out these areas for mounting. So if we swap from the design view on the left of the screen to the toolpath tab on the right of the screen, you'll see here we can check the material setting. So we've got 0.1 thick material, Z0 on the surface. Let's specify a retract gap of 0.1 of an inch, and then at the end of engraving we'll ask the tool to retract 1/4 of an inch above the material. Click OK. We just press the letter F to scale the view to fit. The quick engraving toolpath functionality is the last icon on the first row of the toolpath operations menu. If we open the form, first of all we select the tool that we wish to use. So we've got an option here, we can use engraving tools, so we could use a 20-degree very pointed cutter, say 4 thousandths flat, or we could use a diamond drag tool. These tools are used for scratching the surface of materials such as brass, and instead of engraving, you're literally just scribing the surface. So in this example, we're going to use a diamond drag. So we've got an 1/8 of an inch diameter with a 90-degree included angle diamond on the tip of this cutter, and when we engrave it will give us a line width of about 20 thousandths of an inch. If we click OK to select that tool, we can then specify a depth or pressure. Now this is not the depth that the cutter is going to machine into the material surface. This is really a pressure to load the spring on the cutter. These diamond drag cutters would normally be mounted in a spring-loaded collet, where you have to force the cutter onto the material so that the cutter stays in contact with uneven surfaces. If you specify a toolpath that's going to engrave, say, 10 thousandths deep, and the material is not very flat, then you'll get a varying quality of engraving. If you're using a diamond drag tool in a spring-loaded holder, then you can force the tool onto the material and put the tool under pressure due to the spring, and then the spring allows the diamond or the tip of the engraver to follow the surface regardless of whether it's flat or not. So we'll say let's put it under a pressure of about 0.1 of an inch, and we'll select the text and we'll say okay, we're going to fill, so we're going to scribe inside each of the letters. We'll have a step over of say 30 thousandths. Let's make it slightly smaller. Let's make a step over of say 25 thousandths. Now we could have an offset pattern or a hatch pattern. Hatch pattern will give us parallel lines inside the letters. We'll have them cutting or scribing at 45 degrees. If you're using a nose cone, we can say, okay, how deep is the tip of the cutter dropping out from the nose cone? Let's say it's dropping out, say, 5 thousandths of an inch. Okay, so now if we say calculate, in the two-dimensional view, you'll see that we get the fill pattern. So here we've said fill with a hatch, so it's given us a hatch pattern. If we say cross hatch and calculate, we get the cross hatching going in both directions. I'm going to switch the cross hatch off for a moment, say recalculate. So we're going to scratch the surface of the material inside the text. If we look in the three-dimensional view, so we look at the toolpath, you can see the toolpath that we're going to send to the engraving machine to scratch the surface. If we close the quick engrave form for a moment, there's our toolpath onto our brass plate. We can say preview this toolpath. So the toolpath is selected, preview. So this is going to show us that it's literally just scratching the surface of the plate and giving us a representation of how the text will be engraved onto the brass plate. We zoom in. You'll see there that we've got the step over spacing. So remember that we used a step over of 25 thousandths. So that's the gap between each line inside each letter. And we've got full control over that. Let's move on and look at trepanning or machining out the holes for the pockets. So we go back to the two-dimensional view. We're going to drag and select the top two holes, holding the shift key down, select the bottom two holes. This time we're going to create a pocketing toolpath. So we'll say pocket. We're going to cut through our 0.1 inch thick plate. Select the cutter to do this. So to do this, we'll probably use an angled engraving cutter, say 20 thousandths flat on the bottom. And now if we say calculate that toolpath, you'll see now that the toolpath is running down and pocket machining inside each hole. If we preview the toolpath, you'll see that the cutter's gone through and it's engraved each of the holes out in each corner. So we can now drill through and screw the plate to a wall or onto a plaque. Go back to the design view. We can preview the toolpaths in the design view. So this shows us what the toolpaths are going to look like. There's our little pocketing tool inside the drill hole. F to zoom to fit. We can now check how long it's going to take to engrave this plaque, so estimate the machining time, and it's telling us just to scratch the surface it should take approximately 5 minutes, and then about another minute or so to drill out the four corners. Once we're happy with the times, we select each toolpath, save the toolpath. Now if you're using one of the engravers that we can send toolpaths directly to, for example if you're using a Roland engraver, if we select Roland from the list of post processors, so let's say for example it's a Roland EGX, and what have we got here? Let's use the Roland EGX 300. We can say output direct to machine, click on the little configure button. You should then have the Roland printer driver installed on the PC. After clicking this button, you select the printer driver, and then you can send the toolpath data for each toolpath in turn straight to the machine, and it will then engrave the plate for you. Thank you for watching the tutorial.